Hello, and welcome to Mr. Smith Garage YouTube channel. Thank you for those of you that have started following me and subscribing to the channel. I love to hear your feedback, and one piece of feedback that came back was to tell the epic saga of the 1965 VW panel bus. So years ago, I acquired a 1965 VW panel. This is way back, we're talking like 1989 or so. Absolutely loved it, drove it, picked it up from a gentleman from Horst German Car Repair. Actually first learned about Horst from when my parents had a Volkswagen bay window bus. Another story, another time. So the 65 panel was named Nellie. I had her all through college and then into early family life. You can see my son here smiling, wishing that he could drive it. And I always seemed to be working on it, but never really had a lot of time to put into it. It is a saga, though. At one point, it was stolen while I was in college from the Mexican border. It ended up driving back and forth from the border to Southern California, maybe Pomona. I want to say it was 3,000 to 4,000 miles. I only know that because I had a brand new motor in it when it was stolen, and when we found it a couple months later in Pomona, it had an extra several thousand miles on the odometer and missing the new engine and the hubcaps that were original. But it was in pretty good shape. It wasn't wrecked, so I put a used motor in it, continued to drive it all through college into my early married life. These are some of the pictures that I have from it more recently when we had children. It would be a van that we took to the lake with a canoe in the back because it would fit. Kids always loved riding in it. Mrs. Smith didn't always enjoy the ride because of the heat and no air conditioning. But it was just a beautiful 65 panel, double door. It had deluxe doors on it because when I bought it from Mr. Horst, he did not have panel doors. And I always wanted the panel doors that Steve at Wolfgang had, but he just never really wanted to sell them to me. So this is kind of that story of its early time. I had it for nearly 30 years before she was lost in a tragic fire. Not a fire with an engine, but a fire that was a forest fire, ended up burning into a few neighborhoods in Northern California. This is the primary reason why I just don't have a lot of pictures of the 65 VW panel bus. When we had that fire, all of our pictures were destroyed, which I had quite a few pictures from the past. And I just love this view, looking out through the split windows. If anybody's ever had a split window bus, you get my idea. I mean, it's just so wonderful to be able to drive and see out this type of view. There Nellie is snug with her other Volkswagen cousins, the 2000 Snap Orange Turbo Beetle, 2004 Passat wagon that my wife drove. And you can see in this picture, Nellie's back behind my Bug with quite a bit of stuff inside. For several years, Nellie just became kind of a storage unit inside the garage. And recently, maybe 6-7 years ago, pulled her out and got her running again, got a new battery, updated the brakes, made sure the engine was running well, and but just had a beautiful paint job. It was 30 years old. I'm going to take a moment, let you take a look in there. That is Nellie deep within the garage after the fire. Unrecoverable. I will tell you that the firemen, after we pulled her out, I noticed that right underneath the engine, there's about a 3-inch hole in the cement below Nellie from the magnesium block burning. This is a picture kind of our vehicles that were all destroyed. Nellie's inside the garage, and the Passat wagon was also inside the garage. Horrible tragedy. We were all over in Europe when this happened, so really didn't get a chance to evacuate anything out of our house. There's a nice sign on there, Mr. Smith's Used Cars. Uh, anyway, um, yeah, not much you can recover from there. I did keep Nellie in my father-in-law's backyard for about 2 years because I was trying to figure out a way to, you know, have some kind of recovery. But the metal was so thin after the fire, it probably burned in the garage for several hours until all the fire extinguished itself. But I finally decided to get rid of her. Took her to, this is on a trailer, on her final ride to the recycler. And when they took her off the trailer with the big recycler tractor, it was kind of like her final ride into metal oblivion and recycling. I think I ended up getting about $100 in scrap steel for the body of Nellie after she was destroyed. But I didn't lose hope. I still continued to have kind of a desire to get back into the Volkswagen world after that. And, it was difficult to find a Volkswagen that I could afford, especially a bus in that type of condition. I had the 65 panel bus for at least 30 years, and I picked it up fairly reasonable price, what I thought was expensive at the time back in the late 80s, but compared to what it would be worth now, they're just priceless. There was only, I believe, 1,500 made. It was a 1965 bus. It's just really hard to come by those types of vehicles. I will tell you that I did find some air-cooled Vanagon, and so that was kind of my ability to get back into the Volkswagen world, and I love the fact that I have air-cooled Vanagons. They only made them for a few years. It was affordable, and I have two now, so that's kind of what prompted me to start doing a channel, just going through the different things on those vehicles. I've got a couple pictures here at the end that just show you how happy I was to be driving it home from where I picked it up in the Pacific Northwest and drove it back to my home. Thanks for joining me today. Hopefully along the way I can share a little bit more about that. I did keep a couple of burnt pieces off of Nellie, and they're sitting around in my garage in a few spots, so I'll make sure to mention those.